Hare Krishna, Namaste. Welcome to today's video. Today I wanted to touch on a topic that has been eating away at me a little bit for the last while. So I was like, you know what, let's make a YouTube video about it. And I made a Facebook post about this a little while ago, and it seemed to be quite popular. And there was quite a few people that seemed to really appreciate my viewpoint. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the YouTube video about it. So anyways, today I wanted to touch on some of my observations with social justice caste hierarchy. Now, I chose to call it a caste hierarchy because it seems like this very strict system, whether people have a conscious understanding of it or not. Most times I think people actually have a subconscious processing or understanding of this process, regardless of, you know, if they're aware of it or not. They're acting in a way that once they know somebody's caste, once they know what caste they belong to in their position, they know whether to treat them on the same level as them or above them or below them, right? So with the social justice caste hierarchy, I wanted to talk on like three main points of how one moves up in the hierarchy, how one moves down in the hierarchy, and then how one can make, you know, such an offense that they completely lose their caste and they have no place in the social hierarchy at all. So let's talk about how caste and positionality is determined amongst, you know, the super left, super far left, more communist, Marxist, super woke, whatever you want to call it, social justice warrior spaces. Caste is determined by a multitude of factors. Now, back in the day, there were different denominations, I guess you could say, of social justice causes that focused on different areas, right? So for your classical old school Marxists and communists, their biggest determining factor in your caste hierarchy will be based on classism and class standards, right? Now, if you're dealing with people that are dealing in LGBT stuff, obviously their standards that they're going to be looking at in terms of where you fit into the LGBT hierarchy is on, you know, your LGBT status or non-LGBT status. That will determine where you go in that hierarchy. And there are others that these days, the biggest denomination, it would seem, of woke religion would be the race, around race. You know, there's denominations around class, around gender and sex. The biggest one everyone seems to be obsessing about these days is with race. And as as far as I can tell, it would seem that the whole basis of the racial caste system is based on, you know, white is the worst, they're the highest of oppressors and the worst as far as like being a marginalized group and stuff. And then the darkest, blackest skin is the highest in oppression and they have the lowest of privilege. Now, what is going on today and why there's a lot of turmoil in the left and social justice spaces is because I believe that this hierarchy is being reset and recalibrated, because you have all of these different groups, right? We have the class, we have gender and sex, we have immigration status, we have race, we have religion, all these different things, right? And today, what's it all about? It's about intersectionality. We can't just look at one different thing. We have to take all of the different identities, all of the different collective identities that you are, and then you have to have an average weighted oppression or privilege point with all of your different identities. So, let's take me for an example. So I'm a mixed race person, but I'm white passing. So that cuts off some points. I am a Hindu, so that is a religious minority. But in the United States, Jews and Hindus, which used to be more up the top, are becoming lower down because they're fascist Islamophobes. What's another thing? I'm transgender. I'm a transsexual person. So that actually does put me pretty high up on the oppression scale. What else? I was formerly homeless, but my family was fairly wealthy growing up, so, you know, that's kind of neutral. And now I'm in a pretty good financial position, so as far as class, I'm not very oppressed. So again, whether someone, the people that use this processing method or this ideology, and they're always, seeing what caste or position someone belongs to or what identity they have. That's what's going on now. It's like, okay, well, are they black? Are they disabled? Are they rich? Are they poor? Are they a Christian or a Muslim? And depending on what your answers are, when you're weighing out different people based off of your assumptions, that's the thing too. It's like when we're judging other people, all we have are the assumptions. So people are just going around assuming and guessing where people lie on, their privilege points and oppressor points versus their oppressor and marginalized points, right? And the scary thing today is that if you're really low on, or I guess if you're really high with the oppression points, then that's better for you, and people will treat you better and will treat you differently, or at the very least, pity you, and they will be much less likely to question your lived experience. That's the thing I keep hearing these days. Lived experience. Logic means nothing. Science means nothing. It's all about lived experience. Not to say lived experience isn't important, but it's just gotten to a point today where it seems like everything is about identity and whatever people say. Now, let's see. What's my next point here? I'm going to look at my phone, at my notes here. So that's how people find out, where are you on the oppression and privilege points. So I know your average or your total score once we've weighed out all of your different identities. So for some people that could be really great because they could be really high up on the scale. For other people it could be not so great because they're pretty low on in the caste hierarchies. So for example, like my boyfriend, my fiance, he happens to be a straight white man, and he gets a lot of hate for that. Like, even if he's like super supportive of different issues or other things, like people will give him hate sometimes just because he's a man and he's white, and it's like, fuck you, you're white. And it's like, he's a really great guy. But anyways, so that brings me to my next point of how does one move up in the social hierarchy if you're just on like a neutral level, or if you're kind of low. How do you move up so that you'll get the attention that you want, so that you'll get the respect that you want? Because now with equity, with this whole mess of treating people differently based off of positive discrimination, and if you don't know about positive discrimination, that's where we have to act or behave differently with or towards other people of a marginalized group. So for example, like if you're a straight person, like you need to interact with like a transgender person, a black transgender person differently than you would like a straight Latino guy or something, because if you're oppressed and you're marginalized, then that obviously means that you're not held to the same standards as everyone else, which on an intellectual and logical dimension, it seems like really insulting, right? And I run into that all the time where people won't know I'm trans and they'll treat me a certain way. But like the super liberal people, once they find out I'm a transsexual person, oh my God, it's this huge pity party. And all of a sudden, I'm not like a super accomplished, intelligent professional. I'm like this broken, disabled child that isn't capable of anything. And people, just treat me like I'm completely like a different person once they know, because they've been taught this idea of positive discrimination and equity and treating people differently based off of their identities, which is nonsense. In my opinion, anyways, we should stick to treating people based off their character. Now, let's see, we're almost 10 minutes in. Okay, so moving up in the hierarchy. Generally, your position in your caste is fixed, generally. But there are some things that you can do to gain some oppression points and move up in the hierarchy. So what I've seen most often, this has probably been over the last 10 years, the easiest thing to do is to take on a new identity that is a new gender or a new sexual orientation, like polygender, polysexual, demi-boy, or, taking on some new vague pronoun no one has heard of. And that's probably the biggest one, is I see people claiming to be some variant of transgender or under the transgender umbrella, which in my opinion doesn't exist. There's no transgender umbrella. You're either a transsexual person or you're not. Just my opinion. Another video. Anyways, and then also I see a ton of people identifying and adopting mental health issues, mental illnesses, or psychiatric problems without a diagnosis. Now, I can understand saying you're depressed or different things, but I've literally met like in activist spaces when I've gone to like national conferences, people like they take their mental health status so seriously. They introduce themselves like, hello, my name is Sahila and I'm a transsexual person and I have PTSD, bipolar, and I tried to kill myself 3 months ago. And it's like, whoa, why do you need to introduce that? Like, I've literally met a lot of people like this, and I'm not saying you have to have a diagnosis to be able to get help, or that you only deserve help if you have a diagnosis, but like, for example, my husband, my fiance, he's a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and it's crazy the amount of people that come in that have self-diagnosed themselves because of Google, or because they want to seem special or they want extra pity. And lately it's been getting really crazy too, like more and more and more like really bizarre or out there kind of mental health issues that people haven't even heard of. Anyways, so that's usually what I see. Like the easiest way to kind of bump yourself up in the hierarchy is adopt a new pronoun, gender, identity, sexual orientation that's super vague, and or like again like a mental condition. That's more of the like light level, I guess you could say, or superficial. I've seen and I've met other people that have taken it to the extreme as well. These people are certainly in the minority, but I see it popping up more and more, and that is transracialism and transabled. So there are people that like I don't know if you've heard of what's her name, Rachel Dolezal, or Miss Hilaria Baldwin when she was going around faking her Spanish accent. So there are people that literally like change their race, or they say that they identify as another race. Usually it's super white liberal white ladies, and they usually have like an identity crisis, it would seem. It's usually white or Jewish ladies, it seems, and they like end up going to these activist spaces and fooling people for years that, oh, I'm a Latina woman or I'm a black woman, when it was like, no, you're just putting on a lot of tanner and fooling a lot of people. So that's transracialism. There's not a lot of that, but I think that's going to be popping up more and more in the next couple of years. I really hope I'm wrong. Like, I hope to God I'm wrong, but the trends, it looks like more and more people are starting to like identify with a different race. The next thing is transabled. So there are people that have fully abled bodies, meaning, you know, no disabilities or anything, but they identify as having a disability. And in some instances, I think this is a mental health condition, but a lot of people are just doing it, I think, again, to be special, or to seem unique, or get pity points, and able to raise their oppression score. And people that can fully walk, you know, choose to use a wheelchair, or people that have no broken bones purposely putting on caste because they identify as having broken bones, or there's just a lot of really bizarre ones out there. So that's kind of my observations of what people do to move up in the hierarchy. So let's talk about some of the things that people do to move down. And of course, this is, you know, not purposeful. Usually people only on accident, you know, will lose oppression points. And that can be done by, for example, if you could still be an oppressed person. Say you're a gay Latino man, or Latinx, excuse me, and say you question the experience of a black, queer, femme handicapped person. That would not be okay, right? Because since they're handicapped, since they're black, since they're queer, trans, femme, that like puts them even above like just a plain brown, gay, Latino guy, right? So if they were to question this person up here, they are going out of their lane, out of their boundaries, they're crossing over boundaries, and they will lose oppression points from that. And you'll see this happen all the time in leftist spaces. If a white person says the wrong thing, or if a Latino person asks the wrong question, or if a black person makes the wrong kind of, insinuation towards a certain kind of group or identity. And a lot of times it can be coming from just an innocent place. People will be asking honest questions about how leftism and intersectionality and all of this stuff works. And I've seen people lose a lot of oppression points and be really ostracized and shunned after saying something pretty, non-offensive towards most people. But for like the extreme liberal person, you have to always be following the rules. You always have to be engaged in virtue and value signaling so that people see that you believe in this mission, you believe in this work, you're doing the work, as they always call it. And the biggest thing, like you can recover from incidences like that, but you have to, excuse my French, but you have to kiss a lot of ass. And get down on your knees, kiss ass, and apologize whether you mean it or not, and show that you are, what are they saying? You are deconstructing and dismantling your inner, whatever it is, if it's inner whiteness or inner cis heteronormativity or your inner classism, what have you. Now, if you don't, if you refuse to do those things, if you refuse to submit, if you refuse to apologize, you can lose your caste and your position in the hierarchy completely. So this happens. This happens when you make an offense and or you take a position or narrative that is completely opposite of the leftist narrative. For example, I myself am, as a transsexual person, since I do not espouse leftist liberal views, or at least I think I'm pretty classically liberal, like Mr. Dave Rubin says, classical liberal, but today the people calling themselves liberals seem like more like cultists, culty people. Even though I'm a transsexual and I would have all of these oppression points for being formerly homeless, a survival sex worker, being disowned from a lot of my family members, being a minority, religion, all these different things, the moment that I adopt the oppressor's narrative, or I am subconsciously internalizing cis heteronormative values, my oppression points, I lose all of those. And automatically, maybe I could gain those back if I were to, again, get on my knees, kiss a bunch of ass, and apologize. But since I go a step further and I say, absolutely not, I will not apologize, and actually I do believe the opposite, or I believe all of these other things that are actually against you guys, and because my beliefs are deemed as cis heteronormative or steeped in whiteness or whatever nonsense that they say, I can lose my caste completely, and I'm not even welcome in leftist or LGBT spaces anymore. So to say, I've had my trans card has been revoked. Same thing can happen. I've seen this probably most common time I see this is with Black people. And it doesn't even have to be Black conservatives. It can just be like normal Black people that aren't like super liberal, super leftist, and super on the BLM train. And like I've seen white people, I've seen brown people, I've seen Black people that are like super liberal, and they're like all on the BLM train, and we have to be allies and accomplices to our Black brothers and sisters, and we have to deconstruct whiteness in the community, all these things, right? They position themselves, in these very big lofty spaces as allies to these people. Yet if they come across a man or a woman, they're Black, and they happen to have a little bit more conservative values, they don't even have to be Republican, but if they don't support BLM, or maybe they aren't all on board with LGBT stuff, or like the race narrative, then they'll have their Black card revoked too. So the people that were all up here high and mighty saying, oh, we need to uplift Black voices and Black people and all of that, the moment they encounter that Black person, they're, you know, an Uncle Tom or a coon or a porch monkey or all those things. Same way that when I espouse my views, I'm a cis bootlicker, I'm a breeder lover. What are the other words? All sort of ridiculous names. And see, that's the thing. Whether you're black, if you disagree with them, then you're internalizing and perpetuating whiteness or white culture. So you're a coon. Or if you're a gay or a lesbian person and you don't agree with the ridiculous nonsense that's going on with all the craziness in the LGBT community, then you're just a bitter self-hating gay or a bitter self-hating lesbian. I've been hearing that a lot lately. Like if you don't date trans people as a gay person, then you're just, you know, you have internalized homophobia and internalized misogyny and internalized transphobia and just all these things. It's ridiculous. So it doesn't matter what kind of minority you are, whether it be in race or gender, sex, sexuality, what country you're from, nationality. None of that matters anymore, because if you disagree, there's always some term for you, for the apostates, for the heretics, you know, for those that, for the heterodox, you know, for the people that do not agree with this orthodox woke narrative. So I think that's just about it. Yeah, we're about like almost 21 and a half minutes in here. So this is a really long video, but it was a really big topic that I wanted to touch on. But I think that's basically all. I would hope that this made sense to you and kind of explained the workings of the social justice caste hierarchy, how it works, how people try to move up, you know, and or how they move down, or how they just completely lose their position altogether. Honestly, I think it's a bunch of bullshit. Just, I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. And I think it's hurting Black people, it's hurting Latinos, it's hurting LGBT people. It's not helping anyone. In fact, this form of hierarchical caste system, it is the most racist, most transphobic, most homophobic system there is. It's like, it actually accomplishes the exact opposite of the people that promote it, what they want to do, which is create a more equal society. So I'm going to stick with Gandhiji, I'm going to stick with Martin Luther King, and I'm going to say, you know, let's continue to treat people based off the content of their character. Let's not have different standards for different people, or hold people to different standards, like having an expectation of low standards on people, you know, like, oh, they're Black, so, you know, maybe we should just lower the standards for them. Or, oh, they're Asian, they're really smart and pretty privileged these days, so we need to raise the bar for them. How about we just see everybody as people, and yeah, just treat everybody as the same, and judge people based off of the content of their character and their kindness and how they're interacting with you, right? I feel like that makes more sense to me. What do you think? Feel free to leave a comment in the little comment space below. And yeah, I guess that's it for now. So thanks again for tuning in and listening. If you listen to this whole thing, we're almost at 25 minutes now. Lord have mercy. So thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Hare Krishna.